Recently, we have gotten a lot of requests at Gap Consulting to help people create PDFs from their Airtable data. And I gotta tell you, if you're doing this manually, you are going about it the wrong way. There is a huge opportunity for you to streamline your operations by bringing PDF generation into your automated workflows. And I'm gonna show you exactly how to do that very thing in this video. So, if that's of interest, stick around and let's get into it. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Gareth and this is Gap Consulting. It's my mission here to help you unlock the full potential of no-code tools, and one of our favorite no-code tools is obviously Airtable, and today we're going to be combining that with another tool called DocsAutomator. DocsAutomator is one of the tools out there that can help you create PDFs automatically from Airtable automation, and it is super easy to set up. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it here in this video. Now, before we get into the heart of things, I want to first invite you to join me for some free templates. If you are newer to Airtable and you want to get a strong foundation, check out our free templates with associated videos for your installation ease. You can grab those templates for free at gapconsulting.io/templates. Without further ado, let's hop on into my screen. I'm going to start by explaining the backend database, then the interface that we built, and then ultimately we will build the automation together in DocsAutomator. It's super easy to put this all together. Now, of course, I encourage you to follow along with me. Open up Airtable, open up your own DocsAutomator, and take the same steps that I'm taking to get your own version working. And of course, if you use our affiliate links that I will share here, if you don't already have accounts, it's a great way for you to show some love back to the channel. We greatly appreciate it. I have three main tables in the data layer of Airtable. I still tend to do my database building here in the data layer. I have proposals. This is what we're actually going to create. I've got line items and I've got services. So let me walk through these one at a time. First of all, services. These are the things that we sell with the price that we sell them for. It's pretty straightforward. Proposals over here. This is our first table. I've got an auto number in this first field. This just increments by 1. It's always going to keep counting the next number. We can plug in the customer name and the customer email, and then we link to line items. We also have a roll-up field that's looking at all of our line items, and it's totaling the sum, right? So we know what the total price on the proposal is. And then we have an attachment field that we've called PDF, and this is where we're going to actually bring in the PDF that we generate via automation. So line items then, the third table, this is the most complicated table, and it includes two links. A link to the proposal, so we're linking line items to proposals. We're also linking the line items to services. And this way we can say each different service that we sell on a proposal. In this case, proposal 1 has 3 different services that we sold. Each of those services has its own quantity, right? So we can say we did 1 quantity sale of the client portal setup, right? 2 sales on the custom CRM build, etc. This field, the price per item, it looks up the price that we sell each service for. So it's just looking it up. And then thirdly, or lastly, we have our subtotal field. And this is a formula that's taking the quantity, multiplying it by the price per item. So if we sell 2 custom CRM builds, each at $2,000, of course, that subtotal for this particular line is 4,000. And then that roll-up field that we talked about earlier back at the proposals, it's taking the sum of everything that's attached to proposal 1, the sum of the subtotal, to get the grand total for that proposal. Pretty straightforward, but also a little complicated if you've never built a lot of tables like this in Airtable. So this is what the back end looks like, my friends, but now let's hop into the front end. I want to take a look at the interface, and this is really straightforward. We're using a record review interface type, which means that we can select a record, and in this case, we're selecting from the proposals table. That's important to note. And here we've made it so that we can edit the customer name and the customer email. So I could say something like Acme Co, and it could be test@test.com. And you can see that we've got our different line items here. What I did not do is give us the ability to edit this in line, which we probably want. So let's go back into our page editor here for our interfaces. We will say edit pages. Now we're going to click into this element to allow ourselves to edit in line, but you have to make sure you're clicking the right place. If you click here, this is kind of the whole linked situation here to the line items table. That's not what we need. We need to click down into the actual element. Notice that this very small space has that dark blue outline around it. This is where we're going to get the option to toggle on to edit records in line. And then any of these fields that are editable, that means they're not a formula, they're not a lookup field. So in this case, it's the quantity and then the service that we're connected to. Those two fields, because of the nature of the fields and the nature of the data there, we can now edit those in line. And you can see here, I can just select a different service if I want, and we're good to go. We also want to make sure that we can add or delete records in line. That way we can add additional line items if we need to, or we can delete items from the proposals that we are creating. So very important to have those things on. Should have had that set up. So now we can go in and we can make changes to our line items that we're selling on a proposal. But most importantly, we have brought in that PDF section right here. Very important that we have this because without it, we're not going to actually see our PDF get generated. And one other component that we should absolutely add here, that now that we're in edit mode anyway, is let's select at the page top. Notice now my blue line is kind of surrounding the whole page here on the side. I want to add a button. And here I'm going to be able to add a button, and by default it will say go to website, but I want to change it so that we create the proposal, right? So I'll say create proposal. Now we can do a lot of fun things with the buttons in Airtable, but my favorite action absolutely is to trigger an automation or run an automation. So we make that selection here. We can toggle on confirmation, which basically will bring up a pop-up box that says, hey, are you sure you want to do this? And we can change the title, the message, the button label. We can change all of this. And then ultimately we have to map this to an automation. Now we don't have an automation yet, so we'll have to create an automation for this very thing. And it's going to say, hey, we're going to create a new automation. What's the name of it? And I will call this create proposal again. And we will continue now in automations. So now that our button is wired appropriately, right? It's the trigger of the automation. We need to build out the automation itself. And that's where we're going to lean into DocsAutomator. Now, this is a third-party tool. It is not part of your Airtable subscription. They do have a free plan that's pretty generous, but if you are generating a lot of documents, obviously, you're going to be saving a lot of time. I don't think you're going to mind paying maybe $15, maybe $30 per month or euros per month in order to have this added tool in your suite of software. It's really great. It works independently. And then we're going to be able to plug that script right here. And that's going to trigger the entire thing or run the entire automation for us. Now, I did say script, and I hope that didn't set you off. I want you to know we're not writing a single line of anything by ourselves here. This is all given to us by DocsAutomator. So let's go ahead and jump on into DocsAutomator. This is what it looks like on the inside, and we can create a new automation. And it's going to ask us to set up our data source, and we'll just connect to Airtable. Of course, I'm already connected here, so I can save and continue. And then in the next step, we are bringing in our document design. Now, DocsAutomator has a lot of templates that we can just use and bring into our Google Drive. They offer them for free. I've already done that for this very video. So our template looks like this. I believe they call it an invoice template, but I'm going to make a few changes here. I've already started to make a few, but one of them is I want this to be a proposal, not an invoice. Now, also, I need to point out that we have some things that are in our system, like the client name and the client email. But when it comes to our information, this is static. I don't need this to be filled out by DocsAutomator. And those two squiggly lines, you can see here the two squiggly lines on the outside. This is how we say that we're bringing data from Airtable into this when we create a new PDF. So for us, I don't need that. So I can just hard code it and say, we're always Gap Consulting, right? And maybe I want to put my email in there. I've got a little hotkey for that. So just go ahead and drop that in and we are all set. Now, the invoice number, created date, I don't think we have a field for that, so we can get rid of this, or we can create the field in Airtable and bring it in. But I'm just going to pop it out for now. We don't have a due date either. It's a proposal. And so actually on that note, I should probably say proposal number instead of invoice number. So let's update that. And what I want to point out also is that these fields that we're mapping to, in this case, I have proposal underscore number with the squiggly lines. This does not have to match how we named it in Airtable. We're going to actually map our data from Airtable over here. But now for the really cool part, this stuff up here at the top, this is all proposal level data, right? The client name, the client email, the proposal number. That all lives at the proposal level. But then we have the line items. It's a layer deeper. And we could have one line item. We could have 10 line items. You never know. Every proposal is different. And that is the beauty of a system like this, where we can actually bring in line item detail. So the double squiggly bracket with line items 1 means we're looking at a linked relationship in Airtable from our proposals to something else, in this case, line items. We can bring in the description, or in our case, we're going to have the name of the service. We're going to have an amount for that service, the number sold, and then we call this subtotal. So I'm going to rename this just so we don't get it confused. And then we have our total for the full proposal at the bottom of that. Now, they also offer instructions here. I'm not going to have anything for this, so I'll get rid of that. And ultimately, this is pretty good to go. This is slight tweaks made to a template in Google Docs. And I've saved that version for myself. I renamed it DocsAutomator Template, and now for the wiring. So let's head on back to DocsAutomator and get things talking. I've already chosen this template from the gallery, so let's go ahead and make that selection. And it's going to say, if you want to open this up in another window, you can. This is the template. I've already done that. I've already copied the template, as I said. So I'm just going to tell DocsAutomator where that template is in my Google Docs. So I can open this up. And I see, let's find it. What is the name of it? DocsAutomator example. DocsAutomator template, here it is. We'll make that selection right here. And basically DocsAutomator is now going to use that template for every time this automation runs. So let's save and continue. Now we move on to the Airtable data mapping. So first we have to find our Airtable database. In our case, I called this PDF automation. So we're going to do a quick search and it pops up here. Now, the primary table here, we are creating proposals. Remember, the layer deeper is the line items. So we need the primary table to be proposals. We make that selection. Now we can choose what the name of the document will be. Our only option here is customer. So let's flip back to Airtable and figure out why this might be. I'm going to publish my interface changes, and we're going to go back to the database on the back end, the data layer, once this is published. So we'll flip back now to data and let's see what it's looking at. So it's looking here. It's not recognizing the auto number as something that the document could be named. So I'm going to write a formula and I'll call this the document number formula. And all I'm going to do is reference the auto number. And that's going to be sufficient. It's just going to convert this auto number to a formula output as text or string. So now I can go back to DocsAutomator, and if you see results that you don't expect, you can always go back to Airtable, make changes, and then make sure to come back to DocsAutomator and refresh your source data in the upper right corner. And this will allow us then to pull in the changes that we just made in Airtable, and I have the doc number showing up now. So this is what I'm naming the document when it's created, so I don't have to go in and rename the document afterwards. It doesn't get a random name. It's getting named exactly what I want it. Now I can also choose where I want that to be attached, like where are we going to save that PDF? And we created this field called PDF. It's an attachment field in Airtable, so I'll make that selection. If you want to override existing attachments, meaning if you have attachments there and you want them, the new document to basically replace them, keep this toggled on. If you want it to be added to the list of attachments, then toggle this off. I want it to replace it. Every time we run our automation, I want that to be the next one. So I'll make that choice. And then here we get into the mapping. First, we're going to map the fields from the primary table. These are the ones in the proposals table. Then we're going to get into the line items where we start mapping the details of the different services that we sold on the proposal. So first and foremost, what do we think client name is? This is the name of the field in the template, and this is the name of the field in Airtable. So we called it customer in Airtable. We called it customer email. We had the proposal number, which is the same as the auto number, and the total is going to be the same total in both. Now we go into the linked fields. So what are the different fields that we have linked? Well, back in our data, right, on the proposals, we only link to line items. So that's what we're choosing here in DocsAutomator, line items. And then it's asking us, do you want to limit this to a specific view? No, we don't. We just want to see the line items that are connected to and related to the proposal that we're creating here. So we don't need to worry about a view or grouping, although these more advanced features really do allow you to produce even more complicated and robust PDFs. But for us, we just need to scroll down and map these different fields. Now, description is what we are going to call the service. But I want to point something out to you. In DocsAutomator, when we are using a linked record, very often what we will see, because here in line items, this service is a linked record, it is going to bring this in as a record because this is a record. Now to us, this looks like text and we would expect it to say client portal setup. But DocsAutomator will very often bring in records as record IDs. I'm going to show you what exactly this looks like, and then I'll show you how to troubleshoot this if you run into the same situation yourself. But let's head back in. We've got our map. The first thing we're mapping to is the service. The amount, in our case, is the price per item. The unit we call quantity, and then the subtotal is exactly the same, subtotal. So let's save this and continue. And then before we move on, we can preview this to make sure that it is working as we would expect. So over here, we can say, search the different proposal records in Airtable. In this case, we only have the one, and create a preview. And this is what this will look like. And I suggest you do this before moving on to make sure that you've mapped everything in Airtable appropriately and that your document is looking as you expected. So let's click on in here and we can open this up. And I see in this case, it didn't seem to matter that we mapped to the record. So I don't need to worry about that, but I'll still go in and tell you what to do in case you have this issue in the future. So for us though, we see that the text was brought in correctly. So we got the actual service name and not the record ID. If you do have this problem though in the future, simply come into the table that you're looking at, in our case, line items, and create a formula. And in this case, I would name it service text because we want to differentiate between the place where we actually link to the service and the text field that demonstrates the service name in text. And all we have to do here is create the formula that references that service linked field. And so if we wanted to point this to DocsAutomator, this would ensure that we never get the record ID coming through. It will always be text. So quick little hack, short workaround. It's going to save you some headache if you ever get results you don't expect. All right, let's head back to DocsAutomator though. Our PDF generation looked pretty good. So now for the integration itself, we can scroll on down here. I don't want to bypass this, but in the interest of time, I will skip it without going into too much detail. But please know that you can send webhooks, you can send emails, you can save the PDF in Google Drive, you can save a Google Doc. Like, there's a lot of options here. Again, in the interest of time, I won't break each of these down, but play with them if you're interested. Now, my favorite way to set this up is to do the automation script. Down here, all we have to do is copy this out. We can just copy it, click it once to copy. Now, I want to point out that you probably would not want to share your screen here as I'm doing because the authorization here is unique to you and your account. Now, this is a demo account, so I'm not too worried about it. So I'm not going to be too concerned, but I will say for you, keep this script private because it actually has some of your authentication information in the script already. But I'm going to click it. Just click it and you see that it was copied, and I can head back to Airtable now and almost forgot that we had an automation halfway built. So we've got the trigger, and then what happens afterwards? Well, we're going to say script. This will require that you are on an appropriate Airtable plan in order to run the script. This is not your only option. You have other ways to perform the automation, which you can explore back on DocsAutomator. There's an extension, there's a webhook, so you have other options. But my preferred method is to just run that quick script, drop that in, and all I have to do is highlight this and paste the script in. Now, I also need to pass the record ID. And the way DocsAutomator has called it is lowercase rec, capital I, lowercase d. So I'll copy this and I will add an input variable here, name it the rec ID, and then the value I will assign to it is the Airtable record ID that came from the button click in our interface. Okay? Now, I know we were going quickly here. There's a lot happening, and I've done this dozens of times. So feel free to slow down the video, go back and rewatch it if I went too quickly in any of these places. But now we have identified a variable, and that's the only piece of this script that has the red underline, meaning that something was amiss. So we can give it a test and run the test here, and we will see that we get a successful test output here, and we are good to go. Now, if we pop back into Airtable and we go to our interfaces, we will be able to push that create proposal button in the future once we get everything deployed. You'll also notice as I'm reloading this page that the script ran appropriately. It created the proposal, and I can go in and see the 3 different services that we have here and the different prices. Now, you will notice that they are out of order from the way that I have them listed in Airtable. You can control this by using a view, grouping, some of those more advanced functions and features that we kind of, just glazed through when we were setting this up. So the order is different, but the data is the same and everything is mapping, right? I've got the client showing up, Acme. I've got my information, which is hard-coded. I've got the proposal number, which is 1. I've got the total and the subtotals and the quantity sold and all of this different stuff here in the PDF. So the last piece for us to do is to go into our automation and finish editing, right? And we turn on our automation. When we then go back to our interface, this button is ready to use. So I can make some edits here, right? I can remove 2 of these line items. Let's say that we hear back from the client and they say, actually, no, I don't need that. All I really need here is the custom CRM build, but I want to change the quantity to 3, for example. Cool. All we have to do is make the tweaks here in our Airtable setup, push create proposal. It's going to give us the confirmation pop-up. This is optional. We opted for it. We say continue. And we see the little spinny wheel up here. It's running the script. It's going to take a moment, and then this will be replaced. We will see this get replaced just in a few seconds. We'll be able to, there it goes. We'll be able to click in now and see the new proposal, and there it goes. Just the 1 item with a quantity of 3, all of the prices updated appropriately. Very cool stuff. It's going to save you a ton of time if you start to leverage these kinds of technologies in your PDF generation. I hope you got a ton of value from this video. If you did, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and if you have questions that we didn't answer, feel free to swing by the website. We would love to help you out. Of course, the most important thing, keep on building.